Life has a way of teaching us its most profound lessons in the most unexpected moments. Sometimes, these moments happen on busy city streets, where thousands of stories intersect but rarely connect. This is one of those stories, a tale that reminds us how a single dollar can change not just a life, but our understanding of what it means to be human. It was a crisp autumn evening in Chicago, the kind where the wind carries whispers of winter but hasn't yet lost its gentle touch. The city's lights were beginning to twinkle against the darkening sky, creating that magical hour when the day's bustle starts to fade into the night's quiet embrace. On Michigan Avenue, where luxury stores line the streets and success seemed to hang in the air itself, a man named James had made his temporary home. James wasn't always homeless. 3 years ago, he had a job, a family, and a place to call his own. But life, as it often does, had other plans. A devastating combination of medical bills, job loss, and a marriage that couldn't weather the storm had left him with nothing but the clothes on his back and a cardboard sign that read, "Anything helps. God bless." He'd learned to recognize the different types of passers-by, the ones who pretended not to see him, the ones who gave apologetic smiles, and the rare few who stopped to spare some change. That evening felt different somehow. Maybe it was the way the sunset painted the sky in shades of hope, or perhaps it was the unusual warmth in people's smiles. James had managed to collect enough for a simple meal, but something told him to stay out a little longer. He'd learned to trust these gut feelings during his time on the streets. They were often the whispers of destiny disguised as intuition. The sidewalk was still busy with people heading home from work or out to dinner, their designer bags and tailored suits a stark contrast to James's weathered appearance. He'd stopped letting these differences bother him months ago. In his experience, the true measure of a person had nothing to do with what they wore or carried. As the evening progressed, James noticed a tall figure approaching from the distance. There was something familiar about the way this person moved, a confidence that seemed to part the crowd naturally, like water flowing around a stone in a stream. As the figure drew closer, James's heart began to race. He knew that walk, that silhouette. Anyone who'd lived in Chicago during the 90s would recognize it instantly. Michael Jordan, the legend himself, was walking down Michigan Avenue. Now, James had seen celebrities before during his time on the streets. Chicago had its fair share of famous residents and visitors, but this was different. This was the man whose posters had once adorned his son's bedroom walls, whose games he'd watched with his family during happier times, whose very name was synonymous with greatness. For a moment, James hesitated. He'd never been the type to bother people, famous or not. His policy had always been to let those who wanted to give come to him. But something about this moment felt destined, as if all the paths in his life had led to this precise intersection of time and space. Without overthinking it, James gathered his courage and spoke up just as Jordan was passing by. "Excuse me, Mr. Jordan," he said, his voice carrying a mix of respect and desperation. "Could you spare $1?" Time seemed to slow down as Michael Jordan stopped. The bustling street faded into the background as the basketball legend turned to look at James. In that moment, James saw something in Jordan's eyes that he hadn't expected: recognition. Not of who James was, but of something deeper, more fundamental, the recognition of one human being seeing another. What happened next would become a story that would circulate far beyond the confines of Michigan Avenue, a testament to the unexpected ways in which kindness can manifest itself. But more than that, it would become a moment that challenged our assumptions about celebrity, wealth, and what it truly means to help another person. The truth is, we often think we know how these stories will end. We've been conditioned by viral videos and social media posts to expect either tremendous generosity or disappointing indifference. But real life rarely fits into such neat categories. Sometimes, the most powerful moments are the ones that force us to question our expectations and preconceptions. As James stood there, his question hanging in the air between them, he couldn't have known that this simple request for $1 would spark a chain of events that would touch not just his life, but the lives of countless others who would hear this story. He couldn't have known that this moment would become a testament to the power of human connection, transcending the barriers of status and circumstance. What makes this story particularly compelling isn't just the involvement of a sports icon, or even the unusual nature of the encounter. It's the raw humanity that emerged in that moment, the way two men from vastly different worlds connected on a busy Chicago street, each carrying their own stories, their own burdens, and their own understanding of what it means to give and receive. In the years James had spent on the streets, he'd learned that every interaction had the potential to surprise you. Some of the richest people would pass by without a glance, while someone who clearly had very little would share what they had. He'd seen kindness emerge from unexpected places and learned that appearances rarely told the whole story. But this encounter with Michael Jordan was different. It wasn't just about the possibility of receiving help, it was about being acknowledged, being seen. In a world where homeless individuals often feel invisible, that moment of recognition can be as valuable as any material assistance. The sun had nearly set now, casting long shadows across Michigan Avenue. The temperature was dropping, and the crowd was thinning out. Yet in this moment, as James stood face to face with one of the most famous athletes in history, time seemed to stand still. The usual sounds of the city, the traffic, the conversations, the distant L train, all faded into the background. What happened next would challenge our assumptions about celebrity, wealth, and compassion. It would remind us that sometimes the most powerful stories aren't about grand gestures or life-changing sums of money, but about the simple dignity of human connection. It would show us that even in our most vulnerable moments, we have the capacity to touch others' lives in ways we might never expect. As Michael Jordan stood there, his response forming, neither he nor James could have anticipated how this brief encounter would ripple outward, touching lives far beyond that Chicago street corner. They couldn't have known that their interaction would become a testament to the power of human dignity and the unexpected ways in which fate brings people together. This is more than just a story about a homeless man asking a celebrity for $1. It's a reminder that in a world often divided by wealth, status, and circumstance, our shared humanity has the power to bridge any gap. It's a story about the courage it takes to ask for help, the grace in how we respond to those requests, and the profound impact that can come from a simple moment of connection. What happened next would not only change James's life but would also challenge our understanding of generosity, compassion, and what it truly means to help another person. It would become a story that reminds us that sometimes the most powerful moments in life come not from grand gestures or elaborate plans, but from simple, authentic human connections. As the city lights began to shine brighter against the darkening sky, neither James nor Michael Jordan could have known that their encounter would become a testament to the power of human kindness and the unexpected ways in which destiny brings people together. This was just the beginning of a story that would touch hearts, change lives, and remind us all of the extraordinary power of ordinary moments. Michael Jordan looked at James for what felt like an eternity, his expression unreadable. In that moment, the bustle of Michigan Avenue seemed to fade away, leaving just two men standing face to face on a sidewalk in Chicago. What happened next would become a story that would challenge everything we think we know about celebrity encounters and acts of kindness. Jordan didn't immediately reach for his wallet. Instead, he did something unexpected. He pulled up a nearby street bench and sat down, gesturing for James to join him. This simple act, this willingness to share a space with someone society often renders invisible, spoke volumes before a single word was exchanged. $1? Jordan finally said, his voice carrying that familiar confident tone that had narrated countless post-game interviews. Let me ask you something first. What's your story? The question wasn't delivered with condescension or pity, but with genuine curiosity. It was the kind of question that acknowledged James as a person, not just another face on the street asking for help. For James, this moment was surreal. Here he was, sitting next to Michael Jordan, the man whose face had graced posters and billboards across Chicago for years. But more surprising than the surreal nature of the situation was Jordan's demeanor. There was no trace of the fierce competitor known for dominating the basketball court. Instead, there was something else, a quiet intensity focused entirely on listening. James began to share his story. He told Jordan about his life before homelessness, his job as a construction worker, his family, his home in the suburbs. He spoke about the injury that had started his downward spiral, the medical bills that had drained his savings, and the series of unfortunate events that had led him to this street corner. His voice carried no self-pity, just the matter-of-fact tone of someone who had learned to accept their circumstances while never losing hope for something better. As James spoke, Jordan listened intently, occasionally nodding. Those who knew Jordan's history might have recognized something in his expression, perhaps a reflection of his own father's wisdom about life's unexpected turns, or maybe the echoes of lessons learned during his brief retirement from basketball about how quickly circumstances can change. When James finished his story, Jordan leaned back and looked up at the Chicago skyline. The city where he had become a legend was now the backdrop for a different kind of moment, not one of athletic triumph, but of human connection. "You know," Jordan began, "when I was growing up, my father used to tell me something important. He said that our true character isn't shown in how we handle success, but in how we handle life's challenges." Then Jordan did something that would make this story spread far beyond that Chicago street corner. He reached into his pocket, but instead of pulling out a single dollar, he took out his phone. "I'm not going to give you $1, he said, "because that's not what you really need right now." He began typing something into his phone, then looked back at James. "What you need is an opportunity." What Jordan did next demonstrated an understanding of true generosity, the kind that goes beyond immediate relief to create lasting change. He made a call to one of his business contacts, a construction company owner who had season tickets to the Bulls games. Right there on the street, Jordan began arranging not just for a job interview for James, but for temporary housing and the immediate resources needed to help him prepare for that opportunity. But the most powerful part of this interaction wasn't the material assistance Jordan offered. It was the way he spoke to James throughout their conversation, with respect, as an equal, as someone who had hit a rough patch but hadn't lost his dignity or worth. This wasn't about a celebrity's grand gesture, it was about one human being recognizing another's potential and having the means and willingness to help unlock it. As their conversation continued, Jordan shared something personal, a story about his own father's struggles early in life and how a single opportunity had changed the trajectory of his family's future. "Sometimes," Jordan said, "all it takes is one person willing to see past your current circumstances to who you could be." The sun had set completely now, and the Chicago streetlights cast a warm glow over the scene. Other pedestrians walked by, some doing double takes as they recognized Jordan, others completely unaware of the profound moment unfolding on that simple street bench. A few stopped to take pictures from a distance, but something about the intensity of the conversation kept them from interrupting. Jordan's response to James's request for $1 had transformed into something far more meaningful than a simple financial transaction. It had become a masterclass in human dignity, in the power of listening, and in the true nature of generosity. This wasn't about throwing money at a problem. It was about investing time, attention, and resources in another human being's potential. As Jordan stood up to leave, he did something else unexpected. He took off his jacket, a custom-made piece that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary, and draped it over James's shoulders. "It's getting cold," he said simply, as if lending expensive clothing to strangers was something he did every day. "You'll need this for your interview tomorrow." But before walking away, Jordan shared one final thought that would stick with James and with all who would later hear this story. "You asked me for $1, but what you really did was remind me of something important. Success isn't just about what we achieve for ourselves, it's about what we do for others when we have the chance." This encounter would soon become more than just another story about celebrity generosity. It would become a testament to the power of human connection and the importance of seeing beyond surface-level needs to the deeper opportunities for meaningful change. It would challenge our assumptions about giving, about receiving, and about the true nature of help. The story would spread first through social media, then through news outlets, but not because of the financial assistance Jordan provided. It would spread because it touched on something fundamental about human dignity and the transformative power of being truly seen by another person. In the days that followed, as James prepared for his interview wearing Jordan's jacket, he would reflect on how a simple request for $1 had turned into something far more valuable, a reminder of his own worth and potential. The jacket wasn't just an expensive piece of clothing, it was a tangible symbol of belief in his ability to turn his life around. For those who would later hear this story, it would serve as a powerful reminder that true generosity isn't always about giving what's asked for, but about seeing what's really needed. It would challenge people to think differently about their interactions with others facing hardship, to consider how they might provide not just immediate relief but lasting opportunity. As the story began to circulate, it would inspire others to look differently at their own capacity to help. Some would be moved to create job opportunities in their own businesses. Others would start programs to provide interview clothing and preparation for those trying to re-enter the workforce. The ripple effects of that evening's interaction would extend far beyond that Chicago street corner. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of this story wasn't what Jordan gave, but how he gave it, with respect, with attention, and with a recognition of human dignity that transcended the traditional dynamics of giving and receiving. In choosing to sit down, to listen, and to engage with James as a person rather than a problem to be solved, Jordan demonstrated a form of generosity that went beyond material assistance. This story would become a reminder that sometimes the most valuable thing we can give another person isn't money or material goods, but the gift of being truly seen, heard, and valued. It would challenge us all to reconsider our assumptions about giving, about receiving, and about the extraordinary potential that lies within every human encounter. The morning after his encounter with Michael Jordan, James woke up in a modest hotel room, the first real bed he'd slept in for months. The custom jacket hung carefully on a hanger by the door, its presence a reminder that the previous evening hadn't been a dream. But the true magnitude of what had transpired was only beginning to unfold. The construction company owner Jordan had called was a man named Robert Martinez, a self-made success story who had built his business from the ground up. When he arrived at the hotel to meet James that morning, he brought more than just a job application. He brought breakfast, a fresh set of clothes for the interview, and most importantly, an understanding of what it meant to need a second chance. As they sat in the hotel's small breakfast area, Martinez shared his own story of struggling through tough times early in his career. "Michael didn't just call me because I had a job opening," Martinez explained, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. "He called me because 20 years ago, someone took a chance on me when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to pass that forward." The interview wasn't just a formality. Martinez needed skilled workers, and James's 15 years of construction experience made him a valuable potential employee. But what impressed Martinez most wasn't James's technical knowledge. It was his humility and his unwavering determination to rebuild his life. The way James carried himself, wearing Michael Jordan's jacket not as a trophy but as a responsibility, spoke volumes about his character. As they discussed the possibility of employment, Martinez laid out a comprehensive plan. It wasn't just about offering a job, it was about providing a pathway back to stability. The position would come with health insurance, addressing the very issue that had started James's downward spiral. There would be opportunities for additional training and certification. Most importantly, the company had a partnership with a local housing organization that helped employees transition from homelessness to stable housing. But what made this opportunity truly special was how it preserved James's dignity throughout the process. This wasn't charity, it was a legitimate career opportunity that recognized and valued his skills and experience. The help being offered wasn't a handout. It was a hand up, extended with respect and an understanding of human worth. As James left the interview that morning, now officially employed and with a start date for the following Monday, he found himself overwhelmed by emotions he hadn't allowed himself to feel in months. Hope, yes, but also a profound sense of responsibility. This wasn't just about him anymore. His story was becoming something larger, a testament to the power of human connection and the ripple effects of compassion. The news of Michael Jordan's encounter with James began to spread through Chicago, first as whispers and then as a growing narrative that captured the city's imagination. Local news stations picked up the story, not for its celebrity angle, but for what it revealed about the nature of true generosity. Jordan himself remained characteristically private about the interaction, which only added to its authenticity. But the real story was unfolding in quieter ways, away from the media attention. Other business owners in Chicago, inspired by Jordan and Martinez's example, began looking at their own capacity to create opportunities. A local clothing store started a program providing interview attire to job seekers. A small construction supply company created a training program specifically designed for individuals rebuilding their lives after experiencing homelessness. James's first day on the job was a testament to the transformative power of dignity and opportunity. He arrived early, wearing work clothes provided by the company's employee assistance program. The jacket Jordan had given him hung in his new locker, a reminder of the moment that had changed everything. His new co-workers, who had heard his story, treated him not with pity but with the respect due to any skilled tradesman. As weeks turned into months, James's story continued to evolve in meaningful ways. His work ethic and expertise made him a valuable team member. The steady income allowed him to move into a small apartment. Regular meals and proper rest restored his health. But perhaps most significantly, he began to rebuild connections with his family, who had lost touch with him during his time on the streets. 6 months after that fateful evening on Michigan Avenue, James found himself in a position to help others. He started volunteering at a local shelter, sharing his story not as a tale of celebrity intervention, but as proof that every person deserves the chance to rebuild their life. His experience became a source of hope for others facing similar struggles, proving that rock bottom doesn't have to be a permanent address. The jacket Jordan had given him took on a symbolic role in this new chapter of his life. James would loan it to other men for their job interviews, passing along not just the physical garment but the spirit of opportunity it represented. Each time he shared the jacket story, he emphasized that the most valuable gift he'd received that night wasn't the expensive clothing or even the job connection. It was the restoration of his dignity. 1 year after the encounter, Martinez's construction company had hired 5 more individuals transitioning out of homelessness, each one carefully selected and supported in their journey back to stability. The program's success rate wasn't perfect, but its impact was undeniable. Each success story strengthened the company's commitment to the initiative, proving that social responsibility and business success could go hand in hand. The ripple effects continued to spread in unexpected ways. Other NBA players, inspired by Jordan's example, began looking for opportunities to create lasting change rather than just one-time donations. Local businesses started examining their hiring practices, recognizing that talent and potential could be found in unexpected places. The story had become a catalyst for a broader conversation about opportunity, dignity, and the true nature of community support. James's transformation wasn't just about moving from homelessness to stability, it was about rediscovering his own capacity to contribute to society. Within 18 months, he had been promoted to team leader, his experience and leadership qualities making him invaluable to the company. He had opened a small savings account, rebuilt his credit, and even started taking evening classes in construction management. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of James's story was how it changed the narrative around homelessness in Chicago. His experience highlighted the often overlooked reality that many people experiencing homelessness have valuable skills and experience. They don't need pity, they need opportunity. They don't need handouts, they need access to the resources and connections that can help them rebuild their lives. The story of Jordan's response to a request for $1 had evolved into something far more significant, a blueprint for meaningful change. It demonstrated that true generosity isn't about the amount given, but about the dignity preserved and the opportunities created. It showed that sometimes the most powerful way to help someone is to see past their current circumstances to their inherent worth and potential. 2 years after that evening on Michigan Avenue, James organized a small ceremony at the construction company. With Martinez's blessing, he established a mentorship program for new employees transitioning out of homelessness. The program was named Beyond the Dollar, a reference to both Jordan's initial response and the understanding that true change requires more than just financial assistance. The jacket that Jordan had given him was formally retired that day, framed and hung in the company's main office. But next to it hung something even more significant, a wall of photographs showing every person who had gone through the program and successfully rebuilt their life. Each photo told a story of transformation, of dignity restored, of lives rebuilt through opportunity and support. As James stood before the gathered employees and media representatives that day, he shared a reflection that captured the essence of his journey. 2 years ago, I asked someone for $1, but what I really needed was a chance. What I received was a reminder of my own worth and the opportunity to rebuild my life. Today, we're not just celebrating my story, we're celebrating the power of seeing people for who they can become, not just who they are in their hardest moments. The true legacy of that encounter on Michigan Avenue wasn't just about one basketball legend's act of kindness or one man's journey from homelessness to stability. It was about how a simple request for $1 could transform into a movement that changed how a community viewed and addressed homelessness. It was about the power of dignity, opportunity, and the profound impact of choosing to see the potential in every human being. 5 years after that fateful evening on Michigan Avenue, the impact of Michael Jordan's response to a simple request for $1 had created waves of change that continued to ripple through Chicago and beyond. The story had become more than just a viral moment or a feel-good headline. It had evolved into a movement that was fundamentally changing how communities approached the challenge of homelessness. The Beyond the Dollar initiative, which began in Martinez's construction company, had expanded to become a citywide program, with over 50 Chicago businesses now participating. The program's success rate spoke for itself. 78% of participants maintained stable employment for at least 2 years, and 83% successfully transitioned into permanent housing. These weren't just statistics. They represented hundreds of individual stories of transformation, each as meaningful as James's original journey. Jordan himself had remained characteristically private about his role in sparking this movement, but his influence was evident in the way other athletes and celebrities began approaching charitable giving. The focus shifted from photo opportunities and oversized checks to sustainable, dignity-preserving programs that created lasting change. The question was no longer, how much can we give, but how can we create meaningful opportunities? James, now a regional director for the Beyond the Dollar initiative, often reflected on how that evening had changed not just his life, but his understanding of what it meant to help others. When people ask me about Michael Jordan's generosity, he would say during speaking engagements, they're usually surprised to learn that he never actually gave me that dollar I asked for. What he gave me was far more valuable. He gave me back my story, my dignity, and the chance to write my own next chapter. The initiative's approach had become a model studied by social workers and community organizations across the country. Its core principles were deceptively simple: recognize the inherent dignity of every individual, acknowledge their skills and experience, provide meaningful opportunities rather than just immediate relief, and create support systems that enable long-term success. One of the most powerful aspects of the program's legacy was how it changed the conversation around homelessness. The focus shifted from viewing homelessness as an insurmountable social problem to seeing it as a temporary circumstance that could be overcome with the right support and opportunities. The program's success stories challenged long-held stereotypes and demonstrated that talent, determination, and potential could be found in unexpected places. Local governments began studying the initiative's model, recognizing that its approach not only helped individuals but also benefited the broader community. The program's participants weren't just finding jobs, they were becoming taxpayers, consumers, and active community members. The economic impact was significant. For every dollar invested in the program, the city saved an estimated $3 in emergency services and social support costs. The initiative's impact extended beyond employment and housing. Participants' families reported improved relationships, better health outcomes, and increased educational achievement among their children. The program's success demonstrated that helping one person could create a positive ripple effect that touched dozens of lives. Perhaps most significantly, the initiative changed how businesses viewed their role in addressing social challenges. Companies discovered that providing opportunities to individuals rebuilding their lives wasn't just charitable, it was good business. Program participants often brought unique perspectives, strong work ethic, and deep loyalty to their employers. The stigma around hiring individuals who had experienced homelessness began to fade as success stories multiplied. The jacket that Jordan had given James that evening had become a symbol of the movement. While the original hung framed in Martinez's office, replicas were created for each program location, serving as a reminder that sometimes the most powerful gift isn't material assistance but the recognition of human dignity and potential. Each jacket bore a simple inscription: Beyond the Dollar, because every story deserves a next chapter. 5 years on, the annual Beyond the Dollar conference in Chicago brought together business leaders, social workers, program participants, and community organizers from across the country. The event wasn't just about sharing success stories. It was about evolving the model to meet new challenges and expanding its impact to more communities. During one particularly memorable conference session, a young entrepreneur shared how the initiative had changed her perspective on hiring. "I used to think giving someone a chance was a risk," she said. "Now I understand that the real risk is in not recognizing the potential in people who just need an opportunity to prove themselves." The program's impact on Chicago's homeless population was significant but not complete. While hundreds of lives had been transformed, thousands more still needed help. However, the initiative had created a framework for addressing these challenges in a more effective and dignified way. It had demonstrated that with the right approach, seemingly intractable social problems could be addressed one opportunity at a time. James's original story had become part of the program's orientation for new participants. But it wasn't presented as a fairy tale about a chance encounter with a celebrity. Instead, it was used to illustrate the power of dignity, opportunity, and human connection. The emphasis wasn't on Jordan's fame or wealth, but on the moment of recognition between two human beings and the transformative power of seeing someone's potential rather than their circumstances. The initiative's success had also influenced how other charitable organizations approached their work. Many shifted from models focused solely on immediate relief to programs that combined short-term assistance with long-term opportunity creation. The concept of dignified giving, helping in ways that preserved and enhanced the recipient's sense of self-worth, became increasingly central to discussions about charitable work. As the movement continued to grow, researchers began studying its impact more systematically. They found that the program's success wasn't just about providing jobs or housing, it was about restoring hope and self-belief to individuals who had lost both. The psychological impact of being seen, valued, and given a genuine opportunity often proved as important as the material assistance provided. The initiative's influence could be seen in unexpected places. Schools began incorporating its principles into their counseling programs, recognizing that early intervention and opportunity creation could prevent future homelessness. Healthcare providers started looking at how they could better support patients facing housing insecurity. Even the criminal justice system began exploring how the program's approach could be adapted to support successful reentry after incarceration. One of the most powerful legacies of the initiative was how it changed the way people viewed requests for help. That simple question, "Can you spare $1?" was no longer seen as just a request for money. It was recognized as what it often truly was: a human being reaching out for connection, dignity, and the opportunity to change their circumstances. Jordan's response to James's request had created a template for meaningful giving that continued to inspire others. It demonstrated that true generosity isn't measured in dollars but in the willingness to see beyond someone's current circumstances to their inherent worth and potential. It showed that sometimes the most valuable thing we can give another person is the opportunity to reclaim their own story. As the 5th anniversary of that evening approached, James stood once again on Michigan Avenue, not far from where his life had changed. The street looked the same, but everything else was different. He wasn't there to ask for help but to offer it, speaking to a group of business leaders about the importance of creating opportunities for others. Looking out at the gathered crowd, James shared a reflection that captured the essence of the movement's legacy. "5 years ago, I asked for $1 but received something far more valuable, a reminder that every person's story matters, that circumstances don't define potential, and that sometimes the most powerful act of giving is simply choosing to see someone for who they could become rather than who their hardships have forced them to be." The legacy of that evening continues to grow, not through grand gestures or massive donations, but through thousands of small moments of recognition, opportunity, and dignity. It serves as a reminder that true change doesn't always come from solving problems with money, but from approaching them with wisdom, compassion, and a belief in human potential. In the end, this story isn't just about Michael Jordan, James, or even the Beyond the Dollar initiative. It's about the transformative power of human dignity and the extraordinary impact that can come from choosing to see the potential in others. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes the most meaningful changes start with a simple moment of connection between two human beings on a city street. As the sun sets on another day in Chicago, somewhere on these streets, another story of transformation is beginning. Another person is reaching out for help, another opportunity is being created, another life is being changed. And it all started because one man asked for $1, and another man chose to give something far more valuable, the chance to write a new chapter in life's ongoing